The Mercedes-Benz GLE and the BMW X5 are two of the most talked about midsize luxury SUVs on the road today. They carry prestige, power, and presence in equal measure. But beneath the polished surfaces and premium cabins, one question keeps buyers awake at night. Which one is more reliable? When you spend this kind of money, you want more than leather seats and a badge that turns heads. You want a vehicle that won't constantly send you back to the workshop. In this fierce comparison, we'll dive deep into the reliability of the GLE and the X5, pulling apart real-world data, repair costs, common failure points, and the ownership experience that tells the real story behind the marketing gloss. Let's start with what the numbers say, because reliability isn't just about how a car feels. It's about how often it breaks and how much it costs to fix when it does. RepairPal, one of the most cited reliability databases in the US, paints a fairly unflattering picture for both contenders. The BMW X5 lands with an average annual repair cost of over $1,100, which is significantly higher than the midsize luxury SUV class average. It's not just the cost that hurts, it's the frequency and severity of repairs. The X5 tends to visit the shop more often, and with a greater likelihood that the problem will be serious. Mercedes-Benz, as a brand, doesn't exactly wear a halo either. The GLE's typical repair costs hover around $900 a year, still well above mainstream SUVs, but slightly lower than BMW's. In other words, neither is cheap to maintain, but statistically, the X5 is a bit more punishing to own. Now, reliability isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about what actually goes wrong. The X5's issues tend to come from its mechanical heart, the engines, the cooling system, and the drivetrain. Across generations, oil leaks have become a bit of a BMW tradition, and the X5 is no exception. Earlier models, especially the E70 and F15 generations, are infamous for valve cover gasket leaks, oil filter housing issues, and cooling system failures. These problems aren't cosmetic annoyances. They can lead to overheating, engine damage, and repair bills that can easily cross into four-digit territory. On newer X5s, particularly the G05 generation launched in 2019, a fresh batch of issues emerged. Owners have reported transfer case failures and drivetrain clunks, especially in 2020 and 2021 models. These problems often stem from faulty components or poor software calibration, and the fixes are rarely cheap. Add to that BMW's recent recall on faulty water pump connectors that could cause electrical shorts, and it's clear the X5's reliability struggles span both mechanical and electronic fronts. The GLE's reliability profile looks a little different, but no less concerning. Mercedes-Benz has spent decades perfecting the art of comfort and refinement, but sometimes that comes at the cost of durability. Owners of the newer GLEs, especially those built from 2020 onward, have reported a cocktail of electrical problems ranging from malfunctioning infotainment systems to faulty sensors and intermittent power issues. Air suspension, while sublime when it works, has been another trouble spot. Compressors and air struts can fail, leading to sagging suspension and expensive replacements. Consumer Reports has been particularly critical of the GLE in recent years, consistently ranking it among the less reliable luxury SUVs, due to these very electrical and suspension gremlins. In short, while the X5 tends to suffer from hardware failures, the GLE's weaknesses lie more in its wiring and gadgetry. That said, not every model year tells the same story. The early years of a new generation tend to be the riskiest for both brands, and that pattern holds true here. For the X5, the 2020 and 2021 models of the current G05 generation stand out as particularly troublesome. Those were the years BMW was still smoothing out issues with the new platform, leading to drivetrain and electronics complaints that haunted many early buyers. On the other hand, the Mercedes GLE models from 2020 to 2022 have drawn criticism for their own first-year faults, particularly with infotainment software glitches, sensor failures, and faulty air suspension components. If you're shopping used, it's generally wiser to go for slightly later years in any given generation, once the factory and dealers have had time to work out the kinks. The older generations have their own quirks. The BMW X5 models from around 2014 to 2018, the F15 generation, are somewhat safer bets as long as they've been well maintained. The engines are proven, and most of the known weak spots, gaskets, cooling systems, and sensors, can be mitigated if they've already been replaced. The Mercedes-Benz ML models from the same era, which were later renamed GLE, also tend to offer better long-term dependability if you stick to examples with coil suspension instead of the air setup. These simpler configurations eliminate one of the GLE's biggest liabilities and make maintenance far less unpredictable. Repair costs, of course, are where reliability translates into reality. For the average owner, both SUVs are expensive to run, but the X5's parts and labor rates can push things to the extreme. BMW's reputation for complexity and tight engine bays means that even routine jobs can be labor-intensive. A leaking valve cover gasket might cost over $1,000 to fix, while something like a transfer case repair can easily exceed $3,000. The GLE doesn't come cheap either, but its most common issues, electrical faults and suspension failures, usually fall in the $800 to $2,500 range depending on the problem. Over the span of 5 years, the total cost of ownership can easily run several $1,000s higher than a Lexus RX or an Acura MDX, both of which are famously easier on the wallet. So which of these two luxury giants is the lesser evil? If we're being brutally honest, neither the GLE nor the X5 can claim a spotless record. They both promise comfort and prestige, but demand deep pockets and patience in return. The X5, while more engaging to drive, tends to punish owners more often with expensive mechanical issues. The GLE, while slightly cushier and arguably more elegant, suffers from electronic gremlins that can sap confidence over time. However, when evaluated solely on reliability, the Mercedes-Benz GLE holds a slight advantage. Despite its electrical quirks, it tends to avoid the severe drivetrain and engine issues that have plagued some X5 generations. When the GLE fails, it's often annoying but not catastrophic. When the X5 fails, it can be wallet-crushing. That said, reliability isn't everything. The X5 still holds appeal for those who prioritize driving dynamics and precision engineering. Its engines, especially the inline-6 and V8 options, deliver effortless power and a satisfying feel that few SUVs can match. If you're willing to stay on top of maintenance and invest in preventative repairs, it can be a rewarding ownership experience. Meanwhile, the GLE leans into a more relaxed philosophy. It prioritizes quietness, ride comfort, and a sense of occasion inside the cabin. It's a car that pampers you, until, of course, one of its sensors decides to act up. But when both are running right, the GLE feels more serene and less tense than the X5, which always seems to be one throttle blip away from reminding you it's a high-performance machine first and a family hauler second. The real takeaway is that buying either of these SUVs means entering into a long-term relationship with a complex machine that requires respect and money. Extended warranties or certified pre-owned coverage can be worth their weight in gold, especially for owners who aren't DIY inclined. A full pre-purchase inspection by a shop that specializes in BMWs or Mercedes is non-negotiable. Both brands are notorious for hiding expensive problems behind clean Carfax reports. If you can choose a model with full service records, showing consistent oil changes, fluid flushes, and recall work, avoid first-year models when possible, and steer clear of neglected examples, no matter how attractive the price looks. At the end of the day, the Mercedes-Benz GLE edges out the BMW X5 in the reliability contest, but just barely. It wins not because it's bulletproof, but because it tends to fail less catastrophically. It's still prone to annoyances that will test your patience, and repair costs remain high enough to remind you that you're driving a luxury vehicle. The X5, while brilliant in performance and design, carries a greater risk of high-dollar mechanical failures that can make ownership feel like a gamble. If you buy one with open eyes, a thick wallet, and a trustworthy mechanic, either SUV can be a satisfying companion. But if your goal is simply to avoid constant trips to the service bay, the GLE is the slightly safer bet. Though in the luxury reliability world, safer is always a relative term. So, in this battle between German giants, neither emerges as a reliability champion in the traditional sense. They're both marvels of engineering, but complexity comes at a cost. The GLE may let you down with a finicky sensor, while the X5 could surprise you with a leaking gasket or a broken driveline. Both demand commitment, and both reward you in different ways when they behave. So if you're chasing perfection, you might be in the wrong showroom. But if you're chasing character, power, and luxury wrapped in the best that Stuttgart and Munich can offer, Then the decision comes down to which kind of risk you're more willing to live with: the Mercedes' occasional electrical tantrums or BMW's more expensive mechanical drama. If you found the video useful, hit the like button to support us. Thank you.